So today we're going to update my spreadsheets for CONY, MSTY, and ULTY and see where my current position is compared to the current price. And then I'm also going to add new sheets for NVDY, SMCY, since I just started that one, and then BIGY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So, as I stated, we are going to update my spreadsheet for my current positions of CONY, MSTY, and ULTY. And those sheets I already have created, as you've seen in a previous video. But I'm going to make a few new ones. I am going to make one for NVDY and BIGY that I've had for a while, but I just didn't have it in the sheet, right? And I haven't really been purchasing much of those, but I am very curious to see where I'm at in my position on those two. And then I did open a new position in SMCY, so I want to do a sheet on that one just to keep track of it as well. So let's just go right over into my spreadsheet there and let's get started. And here we are starting off with CONY. And before I get started, if you enjoy this type of content, it'd be much appreciated if you would hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd love to welcome you to the group. So let's just jump right in here on CONY. And as you can see, I've got my stock purchases here. And the last one I made was on August 1st. My adjusted price per share is at $7.67 right here. And that's, for me, my real price per share, right? And the current price of CONY being at $6.86 means I am not too far off of hopefully getting ready to go green. And I've earned a distribution amount totaling $1,072.40, which has helped me to get my real price per share down. So I'll just keep going with this one. And if I see a drop in that price, I might pick up a couple shares there as well. But currently I have a total of 245 shares in CONY. At that $7.67 adjusted average price means that at that $6.86 current price, I'm not feeling so bad about this position, even though the price of CONY is down. So let's just move right on over and let's check out MSTY. Here we are on MSTY. And for MSTY, I have a total of 475 total shares. The current price of MSTY has dropped, right? And we all know that. It's down to $15.50 as of this video here. But with a distribution earned of $9,100 and my premium of almost $800, that has brought my adjusted price per share here to $3.30. And that's where I'm sitting currently at MSTY. And with that latest distribution of about $1.18 means that after about 3 more distributions, I should be pretty close to about getting all of my invested money back out of MSTY. And at that point, I will be earning distributions free and clear. But the part that keeps setting me back just slightly is the fact that MSTY drops triggers my little buy points, right? And I just can't help myself. I end up having to buy a few shares. And if you roll down here, you can see that's what's happened here, right? I bought it at the 17 range, at the high of 16 range, and now we're at the mid of the 15 range. So if it hits my little buy point, I'll probably end up having to buy a few more shares just because I am still long Bitcoin and Mr. But ultimately, like I said, I want this here to be 0 so that I am earning my distributions free and clear. As far as in the share count number, I'd like to get that to about 500 shares. And with the price of MSTY, looks like I might be able to get there pretty quick, right? So we'll see how that goes. But with the price of Bitcoin dropping, we might not be done with going down on MSTY. But that's okay as long as they continue to pay out those distributions, right? So now let's check out ULTY. And here we are on ULTY. for ULTY, we have a current price of that 567, right? And I have a total share count of 75 shares, and my adjusted price is 572, okay? So with the current price of that 567 and my adjusted price of 572, I am just barely under on this one, right? But I'm not too worried about that, as it does come down and trigger my little buy points. I'll be buying in and hopefully averaging down so that when that price of ULTY moves back up, it doesn't have to move up as high, so that I am then in the green on my average, right? And that's the ultimate goal there for that one, is to get this price down as ULTY is moving down. But currently, I'm pretty close to about a break even, honestly. I mean, I'm a 5 cents off, right? I'm not too worried about that for sure. But the one thing that we have to do here is notice that the distribution here, the last distribution I recorded was the week before on August 21st. We did receive another distribution. Let's go ahead and enter that, and let's just see where that puts my new average price per share at. So let's just check out the website and let's see what that exact amount that we got paid out for this week. All right, so here we are on ULTY, and let's scroll right on down to the distribution, and you can see we got paid out 0.0949, and that X date, which is the date that I record on my sheet just to help me track what and how many shares for each one is eligible, I will enter in the 8/28. Now, that is correct that the payable date was Friday, 8/29, but I enter in the X date because that makes it easier for me to know which group of shares are eligible for that distribution, as you have to own those shares before the X date. So for here, we'll enter in that 8/28, and that amount was 0.0949. Now, how many shares are eligible for this share count? Meaning any purchase over here on this left column, right? Any purchase that is before 8/28, I can count as the amount of shares. Well, the last purchase I made was on 8/19 right here. So therefore, all my shares are eligible. So I can use that full 75 shares for this distribution as well. So I'll enter in that 75 shares, and then it's going to calculate that amount earned. So that amount earned here being $7.12. It is a little lower than last week because the distribution per share is about half a cent less than it was last week. So after that calculation and adding in that distribution, that brought my average price here, my adjusted price, down to $5.62. Yes, look at that. I am under the current price. So instead of this being a negative total unrealized gain value here, it is now a positive number, a positive $3.62, as that is the amount that I am up so far on the play at the current price of ULTY at 567, right? Now, if ULTY drops down, of course, this will adjust as well. But currently, my adjusted price being at 562 and the current price of ULTY being at 567 means I am in the green as far as in the unrealized capital gains, right? Now, this number here stays red until I earn back all of my invested capital. Because if this becomes zero or negative, meaning that I've earned more in distributions than I've paid out in buying shares, then this turning green means I am in the green, right? I am now earning more than I've paid out. So that is a very exciting moment, right? I am now currently under the price of ULTY. So what does that mean as far as in my purchases? Well, right now, if you remember back on a couple videos, I've got a buy price, and this is a limit price that I just put in, right? I've got a limit buy price at $5.60, and I've got a limit price at $5.50. So if ULTY drops down to $5.60, it should purchase me 25 more shares. And then if it drops down to $5.50, it'll purchase another 25 shares. But do notice that $5.60 is under my adjusted price per share, right? I do not necessarily want to buy above that, although I can. It just will raise this adjusted price per share. But I don't necessarily want to average up if I don't have to. So with those two buy orders that I do have, they will average me down. So that is a plus to me. So very excited about that with ULTY. And that gave me a total distribution earned of $14.62. And I've only owned it since August the 15th, right? So about half a month. And I've earned a total of about 3.35%, right? Not too shabby. So now that we've updated the ones that we've had open and you've seen before, so now let's create one for NVDY. Here's a new blank sheet that I'm going to use for NVDY. And we'll just simply enter in the information right here. And I won't put you through watching me enter all this in, but I just wanted to show you real quick of how it's entered in for anybody who may be new to the channel. I'll just enter in the stock ticker symbol, NVDY, and when I hit enter, it's going to automatically pull that current price, and that's the last price of NVDY. And we see it's at $16.65, right? Now everything is still zero because I have not entered in any kind of purchases, any kind of distributions into this sheet yet. So I will go ahead and do that, and then once I get that entered in, I'll bring you back and we'll go over that part. All right, so I've got most of this entered into NVDY, but I do have one more purchase, so I wanted to enter that while we're online here. Then I'll show how the eligible number of shares is calculated over here and how by using that X date in this column, how that helps, right? Let's go ahead and enter in my last purchase. Now I haven't actually bought NVDY in a while. It's just been sitting there gathering up some distributions, but we will enter in that last purchase just to show how it's entered in. So the last purchase was on 7/17. It was a purchase price of $16.89, and I purchased 3 shares at that point. So now let's go ahead and I'll show you how you can use that X date that you would enter in right here, how that would help to figure out the number of eligible shares to enter into this column to calculate that amount earned, right? Because we can't necessarily enter in 71 shares into each one because one, we did not own them then, but sometimes you may buy them on that X date, and if you did, you cannot count it for that distribution, right? So let's just go ahead and I'll show you how to do that. So for the X date of 11/7, I look over here and I just look for anything that is before 11/7. So the only thing I've got is this one entry right here of 5 shares. So that's going to be 5 shares entered in there. This is 12/5. So anything before 12/5 I can add up. Now notice I did purchase on 12/5 here of that 8 shares. I cannot count that because that is the X date, right? I purchased on the X date, so I cannot count those 8 shares. So how many shares can I count? I can count the 2 that are above it, and that's a total of 55 shares. So I can enter in 55 right here. Now I'm at 1/3. So anything before 1/3. Well, here is one on 1/2. So January the 2nd. I can count that one, right? Because that is before the 1/3. So how many shares can I count up? I can count up all the way up to that January the 2nd right there. And that is a total of 68 shares. So I enter in 68 here. The next one, 1/30. Well, you can see my next purchase was at 717. So I will have 68 shares all the way down until I get close to July. So I can go ahead and just enter that in here as 68 shares, 68 shares, 68 shares, April, 68 shares, May, 68 shares, June, 68 shares. Now we're at July. Now I purchased on 7/17 and the X date was 7/17. Therefore, I cannot count those additional shares for this distribution. So I have to keep it at 68 shares. But for this one, anything before 8/14, well, that is all my shares because I have not purchased since 7/17. So that would be the total of that 71 shares right here. Now I can enter that in right there, 71, and I hit my enter, and now it has added up all of my distributions, entered that into this field right here of distributions earned. Then it goes and it uses that to deduct from the amount that I have invested to calculate my real share price. And that is this number right here. And that's my real adjusted share price, right? So that is $15.55 is my adjusted price per share. Well, with the stock price of NVDY at $16.65, that means if I were to sell my shares currently at the stock price of $16.65, I would actually make money on the sale of those shares. Now you can see I've owned NVDY since October of 2024, right? And I have a total of 71 shares, and I have just been capturing those distributions. And by doing so, I now could, if I wanted, sell my NVDY shares for a gain, right? Now, that is not a gain on top of my distributions. That is just completely getting out of it, and I could clear, looks like about $78, right? And that would be selling them and completely closing the position. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I just wanted to show that currently I am actually green on NVDY as my share price, my adjusted share price that is below the current price of NVDY. So that's exciting to see. And I did not even know, right? Because I did not even enter this into the sheet. That's the reason I do like this sheet, because it does help you to understand and to really see if you are up or under on your position of your stock. Because on my brokerage app, I'm showing this price right here. $25.17 is my average, and that is my purchase average. But this is what it's showing on my broker app, right? And with the price of NVDY being $16.65, it is not a very good feel, right? You feel like, wow, I am so under on this one. You know you're earning those distributions, but it does not show it on your broker app. It shows the distributions in a different section, but it does not calculate that back into the actual stock or ETF on the front page where it shows your average, right? So when you're first glancing at it, you're seeing it and it just does not look good. But after filling this sheet out, I'm actually feeling much better with NVDY, because I am actually at a point to where if I wanted to get out of NVDY, I would just barely get above break even, right? I mean, make $78. That's not a whole lot, right? But I am green. So that changes your whole mindset. That makes you feel a little bit better about your position. Now, again, I was not dripping. I am not reinvesting, right? I'm only buying whenever I feel it's a good buy point. And for NVDY, I really haven't been paying much attention to it, honestly. I've been focusing on MSTY, and now I have started looking into ULTY and SMCY, right? But since I have this adjusted price at $15.55, I now know if NVDY drops below that $15.55 by buying a share or 2 or 10, then I will help to reduce this adjusted price per share, right? Because if I buy under this price, then I will be lowering that adjusted price per share. And that is definitely, for me, a good move. So I'm excited about my position in NVDY now that I've entered this into the sheet. So now let's check out SMCY, as I did just open a new position in SMCY. And here we are again on another blank sheet. And all I do is I just enter in SMCY right into the ticker symbol location of that gray cell. And that's the only cells you have to fill out in this sheet, is the gray cells. And it has a current price of $14.64. So let's just go ahead and enter in my purchase, as I only have one purchase because I've just got into it this week. So let's enter the date of that purchase, and that's 8/29 of 2025. That's a buy price of $14.64 is what I purchased it at. Now, if you notice, that is the current price of SMCY. So it's just going to pretty much show us as flat, right? But that's okay. I just started this position, and that was 10 shares. Now, as you can see, it's showing 10 shares at a purchased share average of $14.64, and the adjusted price per share is $14.64. They're the same because I have not entered any distributions. And just to show you here on the SMCY distribution details, the X date was 8/28 right here. So I have to have owned those shares before 8/28 in order to earn that $1.30 of distribution. So if I purchased them on or after 8/28, I will not earn that distribution. And as you can see, my purchase date was 8/29, so therefore I do not get to enter in a distribution for those shares. So that is pretty much it for this one. This was a pretty simple one, as I just opened the new position of SMCY. And the last one we're going to do is BIGY, BIGY. Now, I have not really messed much in BIGY. I think I made a purchase or so of it, and I really didn't touch it much after that. But let's just go ahead and enter that. And I'm also going to show you, if you have this spreadsheet and you're using it, how to create new tabs, right? So for this one, we're going to actually create a whole brand new tab. And you'll see that you can just take one of the tabs, and I just made one called blank right here, right? And what I'll do is I just simply right click and I hit duplicate right here. And what it will do is it will duplicate that blank sheet. As you can see, here's that blank, and now it's a copy of the blank one, right? So now I can rename this one and keep my blank one for always having an empty blank sheet for creating new tabs for new ETFs. So to change it, I can just simply double click it, or you can right click on it and click the rename. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of the copy of like that, and then I'm just going to take out the word blank, and I'm going to enter in the stock ticker symbol of BIGY, and that's BIGY, like that, and enter, and there we go. So now all I got to do is exactly what we've been doing, and that is enter in the stock ticker symbol here of BIGY. It will pull the price once again, and I can go in and enter in my entries of my purchases, and then I'll be able to enter in the distributions, and we'll see where I set currently on this one. Now, like I said, I'd only made a couple purchases of this one, so this one's not really big on my radar, but it is one that I did get in around about the time that it first came out. So my first purchase was on 12/2 of 2024 at a price of 50.86, and I purchased 7 shares at that entry there. I then made a second purchase on 1/8 of 2025 at 50.20 and got 4 shares at that point. So as you can see, I've only made 2 purchases, and I really don't own a whole lot of it, right? A total of a big whopping 11 shares, right? Not too much at all. But I'll go ahead and I'll enter in the distributions and then come back and we can go through that as well. Okay, so I've got the distributions here entered in, and now let's just again enter in those eligible shares using the X date that I've entered in for each distribution entry right here. So the first distribution X date was 1/8, and you can see the first one here was 12/2, so that's definitely going to count. But that second one was on 1/8, so I cannot count those 4 shares. So the first one I can only count 7 shares. So we'll enter in 7 there, and then the next one being 2/5 definitely is after both of these. So for the rest of these, I can enter in 11 shares because I have not purchased any since. So let's just go ahead and enter 11 for each of these entries on the distribution. And there we go. So we've entered in all of that, and we have calculated, and we have a total distribution amount earned of 41 bucks. So that has brought down our adjusted price per share down to $46.89. The actual current price of BIGY is $51.11, and my actual purchase share price is actually $50.62. So I am even under the current price, even at my purchased share price right here, right? But with my adjusted price per share, I'm even lower. I'm down to $46.89. So that's definitely good to see, right? I love to look at these and can tell if I am up or down in the play. And like I said, my broker shows the 50.62 and that the current price is 51.11. So for this one, I saw on my broker app that I am currently green, right? But if I subtract those distributions from the amount that I have invested, that takes me down to my adjusted price per share to $46.89, which even looks better, right? So even better. Now, BIGY only pays out monthly, as you can see on the distributions here. This only pays monthly. So anyway, I wanted to kind of update a few of the sheets. I also wanted to show how to create a new sheet and starting from scratch if you are entering in your entries, right? So I think that pretty much sums it up. If you're interested in this sheet, or even in my generating your income sheet that I just released, you can simply click the link in the pinned comments or in the description to buy me a coffee, and it will give you access to both these sheets. The generating income is a Rev 0 sheet, and this one here is up to a Rev 2 now. So if it's something that you want to use to help track your position and to also understand better, especially like I showed you in NVDY, right? Where it actually looked like I was losing with a purchase share price of $25.17 and a current price of $16.65. Looks like on my broker app that I am down, and I'm down a bit, right? But when I add back in those distributions and I take that out of my capital there, I'm actually at a $15.55 adjusted price per share. So when you enter in your information and you actually find out what your real price per share is, it can definitely help you sleep at night, right? Because when you're looking at this over here at 25 versus 16, all you can think about is, do I need to close this position and just take the loss? Because currently, if I was to close my position, I also have to make sure I account for the distributions that I have earned, because I am not taking those distributions and reinvesting them back in using the drip or anything like that. So therefore, those are captured distributions. And therefore, if I were to sell my shares, I would be in the positive of only $78, but I'm in the positive, right? Versus what I was showing on my broker app and looking at this thinking I'm taking a big loss here, guys. And that's the part that can affect your thinking, right? At least it does for me. That definitely makes me feel a whole lot better knowing that if I were to sell my shares, I would actually come out green. Not much, but green. And I'll take that, as that definitely makes me feel a whole lot better about my position in NVDY, along with some of these other YieldMax ETFs. And it helps me to stick around and play them out a little bit longer. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, hit that like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.